Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Live with Lighthouse. I'm your host, Joe Ray, and this is the show where we guide you to the technology and talent solutions to drive your business forward. I'm really excited to be back this week. We had a really nice talk with Colin Gale of Say Yes Buffalo last week, talking about professional development and how that helps you drive employee retention. So I'm going to leave a link in the comments, and we'll let you watch that back if you missed it last week. Next week, I'm really excited. We're going to have Kevin Weiss, who's the CIO of Best Self Behavioral Health, on the show. And this week, I'm really excited because we're talking about job search tips and tricks for technology professionals. We're going to the candidate side this week. We're talking about, how you can use your resume and your LinkedIn and all these different tips and tricks from our technology talent team here at Lighthouse to drive your job search forward, help you get noticed and find your next best role in tech. So to do that, I'm going to introduce Brianna Hodge today. Brianna is on the stream right there. Brianna, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Excited to be here.
Thanks. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the path that brought you to Lighthouse.
Yeah, so I have been in Buffalo for about 7 years now. I have 2 degrees from the University of Buffalo, which is what kept me in the area. So after graduating with my bachelor's in psychology and having an internship in UB's Career Services office, working with students, that really solidified my interest in HR and building different relationships. So decided to go back to school, get that business acumen, and finished my MBA degree last year from UB again. So since then, I've been in a couple different general HR and talent acquisition focused roles. I've been with Lighthouse since the end of January. So in my current position, I'm helping connect technology professionals to their next great opportunity, wherever that might be. And that's looking like full cycle recruitment. So I'm, doing outbound sourcing searches, letting people know of the different roles that we have available, talking them through the client details and, those general HR screens, and then am able to be kind of that point of contact for them as they navigate the interview process with our clients, and then hopefully landing them that next opportunity. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, love it. It's a big process here with that technology talent team to make it all work. So kudos to you all on the team there, and teamwork makes the dream work for sure. And got to shout out Googles too for UB right here. Still figuring out direction my camera goes. Horns up. Yep. As one of Lighthouse's newest employees, so coming up on 6-month anniversary here. What's been one of your favorite parts of working here with the internal team?
Yeah, so one of my favorite parts about Lighthouse that was super apparent to me in my first few weeks was just our commitment to the Buffalo community, whether that is engaging in different career building workshops or just generally, reaching out to technology professionals that are in the area. Even if we don't have an immediate opening for them or it's not a particular fit with our client, we're still making those connections and making those introductions where it's helpful to get people to their next role. So that was something that kind of stuck with me is, people really do go out of their way to help others in the area and, do that matchmaking process and, of finding the best fit for each candidate. So that's definitely an amazing thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it's a big task and a big privilege too, really, to be in this position in the tech community here in Western New York and nationally as well. So really just excited. We're excited to have you on the team. We're excited for all the work that you all do and are continuing to do, and appreciative to all of our community partners too, who count on us to help share the good word. So thanks. Really excited to, we've talked a lot in past episodes about hiring practices for finding top technology talent with Claire Stroh, who's our Director of Technology Talent Management. And really excited to have you on the show today so that we can talk from the other side of the job search equation here too. How to help technology professionals stand out on the job search, how we can connect with you better, and how we can help you, find that next best role in tech, like you were saying. We really love LinkedIn as a platform for that. I mean, we're on LinkedIn right now, so our team members are pretty easy to find. Really kind of inherently right there, it kind of answers the first question that I had for you today, Bree. But really just wanted to bust the myth of, a lot of people think LinkedIn's just an online resume. And I think that's a great place to start too is, what would you say to someone who maybe isn't using LinkedIn right now that could use it for their job search?
Yeah, so that online resume piece is something that I hear from candidates a lot. And the biggest differentiator to start with is just the amount of space that you have to work with. So your standard resume, most of the time you're keeping that to one page so that it's concise. It's not cumbersome for a recruiter to look through when you're applying to a particular job. You don't have that, limitation with a LinkedIn resume, especially if you're more senior in your career, looking for those senior or even executive level positions. Having just the real estate on your LinkedIn profile to include the full capacity of the roles that you've kind of taken on is something that you don't get to do with a resume. So that's, one piece of it. And then beyond that are just the additional capabilities that you have for building your personal brand using a LinkedIn profile. It is, having LinkedIn is a catalyst to your professional visibility. And that can look in a couple different ways, whether it's following different companies that you are interested in potentially working for, or just staying up to date on industry trends with. It could be showcasing different achievements from your current position for prospective employers or colleagues. LinkedIn learning, different webinars. There's so many ways to get connected with people that are outside of your circle and continue building that professional presence that you simply can't do with a resume. So definitely having that profile as part of your resume is kind of what's key. Again, if you have that one page, including your URL is a great way to show that you're visible online. And again, for employers or recruiters even that want to see the breadth and depth of your experience, they're going to be checking out that profile if it's available. So definitely recommend that. And, again, that's kind of the biggest difference is just there's a lot more capability compared to just, submitting a resume to a job.
Yeah, there's so much there. There's so much opportunity. And you touched on it a little bit in there too. I always tell people when the term personal brand comes up, a lot of people kind of like cringe or like shy away from it a little bit. It's kind of a sensitive topic for some too, because it's really vulnerable, right? It's putting yourself out there and showcasing your expertise and stuff like that. But people already have a personal brand and already have a network, even if they're not using digital and analog channels intentionally, LinkedIn being one of those digital ones to shape that personal brand. What are some ways, if you're a technology professional, regardless whether you're actively searching for a new job or you just want to enhance your presence, you want to be known as someone who's a leading professional in your technology discipline, what are some ways that you can get out there and showcase your expertise?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first thing I would say is just simply having your profile complete. And what I mean by that is, if I'm a recruiter or even a hiring manager that's looking for a specific role, a lot of the times, in looking through people's profiles, what I've noticed is, it's easy to include your role that you're in and the company that you're in, and even how long you've been there. But that's usually where a lot of candidates kind of stop in that process, where you might not realize that there's an ability to indicate if you've been working hybrid, remote, or on site. You can indicate if that position was full-time, contract, if it was an internship. You can indicate where it was located. So a good example of that is if I'm looking for a particular role that I know our client is looking for this person to be hybrid, if I see someone that's in Buffalo with their last 3 roles indicating that they've indicated they've been on-site or hybrid, that says to me as a recruiter, okay, that's something that they're probably open to. Comparing to someone that's been working fully remote positions, I might have a little more, question in mind as to if they'd be open to a hybrid role or not. So simply having those things indicated is a great way to kind of tailor yourself and make yourself unique from other technology professionals that come up in a string search. So that's one way of going about it. The second that I typically look for, and I think is a good way to distinguish yourself, is just updating with different webinars and continuous learning opportunities you're able to attend. And that can look in a variety of ways. It could be a certification that's relevant to your skill set. It could be, attending that webinar with a few key takeaways that you had from it, or even on the flip side, commenting on other posts, that other people have with your opinions, your thoughts on what's relevant. So I think a lot of the times, in true myth fashion, and another myth is that you have to constantly be posting like individual content to, actually boost that visibility and, make it worth it. And certainly that's one way of going about it, but there are, multiple avenues, and, it could be as simple as, again, updating with that certification that you're studying for, looking for, different tips or like study groups when you've actually achieved that, celebrating that with your network. And again, just kind of, being visible on the different, company groups and industry posts that are relevant to you and your profession.
And there's so much benefit to that too. Thanks for sharing all that. There's so much benefit to even getting out and commenting on different articles and current events that are going on in your industry, commenting on your company updates and kind of sharing your perspective on those kinds of things. I think that goes a long way, both in terms of continuous learning, like you said too, also talking about webinars as another option, showing potential employers who might be looking for people like you that you're committed to continually learning, staying up to date, all those things. There's also just the angle of you never know who's going to see that. You never know who you can inspire. You never know who might be looking for someone with exactly your background and your expertise and happens to come across a comment that you left that was really insightful on a news article and decides, hey, this is an interesting person who fits a need on my team. Maybe let me reach out to them.
Yeah, that's
so much there. Yeah. Go ahead. What were you thinking?
I was just going to add on to that in saying that, especially in technology, where there are new versions of programming languages and different tools that are constantly evolving, having that indication within your profile that you are committed to learning those new styles, new ways of thinking is a huge advantage in terms of comparing yourself to other candidates. It can be easy to get stuck in one way of doing thing that's worked for you in the past, but if you're applying within different companies, especially different industries, there are going to be multiple ways of doing things, and those things are also going to change. So being flexible, showing that commitment to learning is a huge advantage.
Yeah, it goes so far. And really, once you're out there doing that, you want to have the background of your profile, like you were saying earlier, set up so that you can get noticed. And I wanted to dive into that a little bit too, because you mentioned one term in there earlier called string search. And I think there's a lot that job seekers might be confused about when they think about recruiters and how they're searching for people for roles and things like that. So I'm wondering, two-part question here. If you could kind of just like demystify that process a little bit of, hey, you're a recruiter of technology talent. How are you searching for people for jobs? And then two, like what parts of their LinkedIn profile are going to be the most important to optimize so that people who are interested in jobs come up in those searches you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great conversation. So it's kind of to start off with that first part. If we have a position, let's say they're looking for a .NET developer, someone with at least 5 years of experience and a specific set of tools in their tech stack. Those keywords are going to, regardless of the tool as a recruiter that you're using, whether it's LinkedIn Recruiter, Indeed, employer tools, those different keywords are going to be what we use to kind of generate that initial pool of candidates. And then, of course, depending on, location and other factors as well. But one thing that I definitely recommend, and that, again, I'm looking for when I'm looking through those results, is where those keywords pop up, one, but also when, and then to what extent. So it's not enough just to have .NET somewhere in your profile, but as a recruiter, I'm looking through those results to see where have you used it, what types of projects, and those specific details. So it's very common for recruiters to kind of look through different results and profiles, and they might have those keywords that kind of pop up, but then have no description under the role and company that they're currently with or that they were with previously. So it goes a long way to include those details, in a bullet point style fashion, just indicating, the details of the projects that you've worked on. It doesn't have to be anything crazy in detail, but just so I, as a recruiter, know, for example, a couple key distinguishing factors is, were you a point of contact for code reviews? Or were you in an individual contributor role? Were you managing direct reports? All of those details, we're not going to get just by seeing, that you were a senior.net developer. That can mean, so many different things depending on what company you're at. So taking the time and the space to include a couple bullets on the specifics of your project are going to go a long way, and it boosts that keyword count as well, because that's, again, something that we're looking for, but we also want to see how and when you've been using those specific keywords as well.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting process, and myself being someone who's not on the recruiting side but has been recruited and things like that, it's interesting to see just the depth of where you're searching in that equation, of thinking of it almost as like if you're reading a story about someone, right? You're looking at the top line lead, like the headline, hey, like what's their core expertise, and then most important details, like working down an order. So if you're a job seeker, then maybe it makes sense to think of it as, hey, imagine you're reading a news article about yourself. You want people to know the most important information first, and then in descending order of importance or relevance to that specific role, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point as well, showing a little bit of, your personality and how you are unique compared to the next profile that we might be looking at. A good example of that is, I've in the bio section of your LinkedIn profile, where you can, really, it's kind of up to interpretation, but I've seen people talk about their outside interests, aside from their professional career, mentioning that they're a dog lover, which, seems like kind of those, details that you might not want to include, or, think are relevant to your LinkedIn or whatever the case might be. But that's a conversation starter. So as long as you've got those professional details squared away, don't be afraid to also include something that differentiates you, something you're passionate about, outside of your technical skills, because that could be a point of conversation as well. I've definitely seen people that have dogs in their, profile pictures are mentioned in their bios, and I'm, at the end of my message say PS cute dog, and like then you're already off to kind of more of a lighthearted, casual start with that recruiter that's reaching out to you. So don't be afraid to make it a little bit of your own, and bend the rules of kind of that, professional, super formal structure that some people, that sometimes people think LinkedIn is.
Exactly, and maybe you could add for us a little bit on that. That almost goes a long way too with hiring managers and teams, right? Because they want to know more about the person than just their technical expertise. Obviously, that's the first thing that they want to be checking for, but this is still a person at the end of the day that they're going to be bringing onto their team. They're going to be working with every day. They want to know a little bit about that person, right? To know, hey, is this going to be a person who I'm going to enjoy working with every day? Is this a person who's going to add to the culture of our team? Things like that. So any other ways you could think of maybe that, job seekers, whether it's LinkedIn or elsewhere in the job search process, that they can kind of infuse their personality?
Yeah. So a couple of things that come to mind right off the bat is just being prepared with, that top couple of interpersonal skills you feel, most strongly with. So I think sometimes within technology too, again, might not be the first thing you think of for yourself as a candidate, but, at the end of the day, that culture fit is almost as equally important as those technical skills for a lot of companies nowadays. So if you are going through an interview process, definitely have those interpersonal skills kind of top of mind, as along with specific examples of how you've, showcased those in previous projects. So a good way of doing that and kind of thinking about it is a little 3-part formula I've used in my personal searches as well, is just in describing how you did a responsibility in your role. First, kind of thinking about what you did. And this is usually an action verb. So designed, created, implemented, led, those are all, describing exactly what the responsibility was, or the skill that you are referencing. How you did it, which comes in the form of a technique that you used or a tool, thinking along the lines of, communication. How did you communicate well? Was it, using a specific project management tool? Was it as part of your daily stand-ups? Describing how exactly you executed that skill. And then always kind of finalizing with an impact statement. So why did why did what you did matter? It could be as simple as, increasing team cohesion, building that team up a little bit. It could be numerical. So maybe it actually enhanced efficiency by blank percent. But regardless, in speaking with hiring managers and recruiters, having those skills top of mind, and then with specific examples on how you've used them, always wrapping up with that impact statement. Why did what you do matter? And kind of leaving that is much more impactful, and also shows in context how you have used those interpersonal skills, those people skills that might be forgotten about sometimes in the technical space.
Yeah, two things I love that you hit on in there. First was the impact in the resume and finding ways to quantify your results, because that's something that really sets top performers apart from, people who are just listing what they did on their resume. Really helps somebody who's hiring understand, okay, this person understands the context of where the technology work they're doing fits within the greater scheme of my business and what we need to drive. Just really impactful part right there. So thanks for that. We've talked a lot about LinkedIn. We've talked a lot about how to stand out there on the job hunt as well. Outside LinkedIn, where do you think are some places that job seekers can, optimize their presence and get ready for the job search?
Yeah, so being as visible and involved as you can in different local industry specific groups that are available to you. Like in Buffalo, for example, there are a ton of Tech Buffalo meetups that are happening for specific skill sets. We've got women focused meetings that are available to attend. So as scary as networking and kind of going physically in person, or even signing on to a webinar where you don't know anyone can be, really putting carving out that time to step outside of your comfort zone can pay off tenfold, even when you don't expect it to. So that's one piece of it. And then something else as well that's still related to LinkedIn, but I think is definitely a powerful tool, is in the same vein of thinking, connecting with those you don't know, especially before you need something. So that's not to say that you can't reach out to a recruiter with an email or connection request asking, about the specific details of a company you applied with, or asking more questions about the job. But having those pre-established connections in place can be huge, so that later down the road you might not know when reaching back out to a recruiter at a specific company or being connected with them can be helpful. But again, especially in Buffalo, where there's that 1 degree of separation from one person to the next, having those established connections and just dropping a connection request to say, hi, I'm looking to connect with other technology professionals, would love to stay in touch. That does go a long way and can sometimes be more powerful than simply reaching out when you have a question or want to follow up on the status of something. So doing that proactively can be a huge help in your search as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to interject real quick with a personal example too, because it's really going to help people. That Randy Harris, our CEO here at Lighthouse Technology Services, I connected with him on LinkedIn maybe 4 years before I started working here, just because we were common alumni of Niagara University. He played hockey there when I was working as the communications contact for the team. And I saw he was working in the city and just thought he was someone worth connecting with. So for years, I saw his content on LinkedIn, just sharing his business philosophy, lots of marketing content. He'd share updates from his family and kind of things that he was proud of with his kids, and just really resonated with me. And I already had that idea of, hey, this is a really cool guy. And then one day the opportunity came around to work with him. And I already had all that knowledge, all that there, that we had kind of built that connection already.
Yep.
So it goes a long way. Yeah, and just kind of speaks to the point of always, don't just ask. Like, networking is about making mutual impact, and just kind of, it's a two-way street. So plant the seeds, and you never know when they might come to harvest. So really great points there. Thanks, Brianna. Anything else that we haven't hit on yet? Anything that you think might be beneficial for technology professionals, looking at the job search and getting ready for that.
Yeah. So parting advice, I know, nationwide, obviously we've seen the impact of different technology layoffs and things of that nature. The job search can be a grind. So I think taking the time to give yourself grace, recognize that it's a strange market right now. We're kind of in an unprecedented realm within that market. Taking time to make sure that, it's not draining you too much, and doing what you can, and then, in the same line of thinking, just remembering too that it just takes time, it takes connections. There's multiple, avenues of, building that job search, expertise and efficiency, that comes beyond just simply rapid applying or mass applying to jobs. So be intentional with things like that, and give yourself some grace, because it can definitely be difficult, but it just takes that one yes, and then you're good to go. So, you got this.
Exactly. That intentionality is so key. And that's a great note to end on. And in the comments, we'll leave a link to Brianna's blog on our Lighthouse Technology Services site. She's got a great post from earlier this spring about 5 tips from her own experience job searching, and a lot of what we touched on the show here. But just good tips that, whether you're a college student in an internship, or if you're 25 years in the industry and it's your first time looking for a new job in a decade or more, I really think they're relevant tips for anybody. So thank you for sharing those. We'll leave that in the comments, and we'll bring the show home here. One last segment we always like to do, Brianna, is in the spirit of our core value, be a lighthouse. Wanted to give you the opportunity. Thanks again for joining the show here. And wanted to see if you want to close it out by highlighting someone who's supported you or helped you learn something new lately.
Definitely. So someone that has, helped me recently that I would love to highlight, is Sarah Vienna. She is the founder and owner of her own consulting firm, Deliberately You. But when I first met her, she was the director of HR at my first HR internship. So we've stayed connected over the years. And just in speaking with her, she always has a fresh, positive perspective on things. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to have learned from her in general, and happy for that connection. She's just a ray of sunshine. So definitely would be my nomination there.
Love it. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Brianna, for highlighting her. It's been really great to have you on the show today. Thanks to everyone who tuned into this week's episode of Live with Lighthouse. And a reminder to keep tuning in every Friday at 9:30. Really excited for the slate of guests that we have later this month, starting next week with Kevin Weiss from Best Self Behavioral Health. So Brianna, thanks so much. Thanks to everyone who tuned in today, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, Joe. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone.